Welcome to AM Best Audio.
As catastrophe losses rise and risk exposures become more complex, the global reinsurance market is adapting to shifting capacity, tighter underwriting discipline, and evolving capital flows. Insurers and reinsurers are navigating a landscape shaped by climate volatility, geopolitical uncertainty, and growing demand for innovative risk transfer solutions, with Bermuda continuing to serve as a key hub for deploying capital and expertise. I'm Lori Chortis for AM Best Audio, and joining us now to discuss that and other trends in the market is John Huff. He's CEO of the Association of Bermuda Insurers and Reinsurers. John, welcome. So great to speak with you again. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks very much for having me, Lori. It's a pleasure to be with you.
John, how would you describe the current state of catastrophe capacity and what's driving changes in pricing and availability?
Well, thanks for asking. It's such a robust, healthy market right now. There's plenty of capital and capacity and also a growing awareness of the risk out there that need to be covered. So you've hit the nail on the head of what Bermuda's sweet spot. It's natural catastrophe cover. I always say we were climate before climate was cool. And so Bermuda market remains very dominant in this space. Some of the projections are that we cover about a third of the P&C reinsurance market. So right now we're in the cycle where some of that property cat business, because of the abundance of capital, is in the cycle. Rates may be moderating. But we still see a very attractive rate environment, rate adequacy, which is so important for supervisors, making sure that there's adequate rate there to make sure the promises can be fulfilled. But you're also seeing terms and conditions hold and attachment points holding, which is very important in the reinsurance business.
John, what emerging risks are most impacting reinsurance market dynamics today, and how are geopolitical and economic uncertainties influencing strategies?
Sure. So changing weather patterns is something that our member companies pay a great deal of attention to as they're fine-tuning those models. If you think about the origin of the Bermuda market, really took off in the Nat Cat space right after Hurricane Andrew in the early 90s. And U.S. companies decided maybe Florida was too volatile politically and weather-wise, and there was some retreatment, if you will, from some of those major carriers. And you saw some smaller carriers come into the Florida market, and then they were heavily reliant on global reinsurance. And the Bermuda market really took off there, still very active in Florida. But I would say one of the significant dynamics that's taken place in Florida is the litigation reforms, stopping litigation abuse. And the legislature in Florida really stepped up with Governor DeSantis in 2022 and 2023 and enacting those reforms. And right now, those reforms are just being felt in the marketplace. And you see this confidence for capital providers to return to Florida and invest heavily there to deploy capital for capacity. And I think you're really seeing the impact of what a state can do to make their market more attractive to capital providers.
John, how is alternative capital expanding reinsurance capacity, and how is Bermuda helping to attract and deploy that capital?
Well, I have a saying that all roads on risk lead to Bermuda. So if you think about the opportunities, certainly the birth of the modern captive is in Bermuda, so companies can manage their risk below attachment points through the captive. They can then, of course, enter an insurance tower and have reinsurance in the market, but also the alternative capital, some people call it ILS or partner capital. It's such an important part of the Bermuda value proposition. So many of our member companies operate their own balance sheets, very strongly supported. About half of our companies are privately held. The other half are publicly traded. But really about 90% plus of our gross written premium volume in Bermuda comes from those publicly traded companies. So not only do they have their own strong balance sheets, but they also have partner capital where they're able to attract third-party investors that want to be tied to them and tied to their risk selection and their risk management, their modeling. And so that third party capital is very important to provide more capital and capacity in the marketplace as we all jointly work together to try to close the protection gap, that significant gap between economic losses after an event and the insured losses. And what can we do working together to help close that gap?
Customize your data experience. BestLink now offers an interactive company dashboard that provides company-level intelligence in a fast, user-friendly interface featuring interactive tables, charts, and Sparkline performance histories. Customize the dashboard tiles to prioritize the insurer ratings, data, and analytics that best support your workflow. AM Best. Our insight, your advantage.
How is Bermuda evolving as a leading hub for risk transfer, and what differentiates it from other global reinsurance centers today?
Well, one of the biggest distinctions for Bermuda, and we've invested a great deal of resource in it, is our recognition globally by supervisors. Remember, our industry is the only industry where you sell a product and you really don't know what it's going to cost until after you've sold it. So having the reliability, the reputation, the trust to make sure that capital stands behind those promises. So we're very proud. This is our 10th anniversary of not only Solvency II in Europe, but Solvency II equivalents for Bermuda. So being recognized in Europe as being the gold standard for regulatory regimes, making sure there's capital in place to meet those promises. Likewise, in the U.S., we're very proud. As you know, I'm a former U.S. State Insurance Commissioner. We're very proud of the designation that the Bermuda Monetary Authority has well earned in the United States. We're not only a qualified jurisdiction, we also are a reciprocal jurisdiction. It means our reinsurers can operate in the U.S. without collateral requirements. And again, being respected and having that reputation for a very strong regulatory regime. If you look at the Bermuda Monetary Authority, at the end of this year, end of 2026, they're expected to have up to 400 supervisors on staff. That is a commitment to strong, solid, safe, and sound regulation. By the way, of that 400, that includes 50 actuaries. That's just unheard of at a regulatory agency. So they're really committed to having that world-class regulatory regime.
John, how does the Association of Bermuda Insurers and Reinsurers support market stability, innovation, and Bermuda's competitiveness on the global stage? And what initiatives is the association undertaking to advance those efforts?
Well, it's interesting because Bermuda is such an entrepreneurial place, and sometimes it's characterized as the secret sauce is the industry working together with the supervisor, the Bermuda Monetary Authority, and also the third leg of that stool is working with government. How do we strategize and to make sure Bermuda remains competitive? And part of that is knowing what our strengths are. We certainly are dominant in the Nat Cat space that we've talked about, but we're seeing a growing leadership position for Bermuda in the specialty lines. And if you see where the market is accelerating in terms of being a thought leader, some of those specialty lines include cyber. There's a great deal of cyber capacity coming out of Bermuda. Certainly in the mortgage insurance space, you're seeing leadership and credit insurance, just a couple of examples. So you're seeing taking that expertise and diversifying it. So we've always had that Nat Cat expertise, but then how do we diversify that business? And you really see that come out when years where you have a very heavy cat year and you still see companies that are very strong and well capitalized because they have a diversified portfolio. And so you hardly ever see a Bermuda company anymore that's just a monoline, if you will, where they're only doing one part of the business. So the companies have become very well diversified, and that has served them well and has served Bermuda well.
And John, looking ahead, where do you see the biggest opportunities and challenges for catastrophe reinsurance capacity and also the global reinsurance market over the next 1 to 2 years?
Again, focusing on closing that protection gap, particularly in emerging markets. We know not only anecdotally, but through research and studies that communities respond and recover from natural catastrophes tenfold speed-wise when there's effective insurance coverage in place. So how do we expand and utilize, leverage the capital and capacity from Bermuda to protect communities around the world? One way to do that may be a really interesting new innovation that the Bermuda Monetary Authority is looking at to expand parametric coverage and maybe having a special license. So it's a brand new consultation that they're looking at, where the industry is working with them, not to substitute parametric coverage for the strong indemnification products that are offered, but really to augment and supplement coverage that's out in the world. So we can do better, and we do better when we work in partnerships. And so if there's one place I'd point folks to look at, would be the work of the Insurance Development Forum. It's a wonderful public-private partnership that includes the insurance industry, the World Bank, and the United Nations working together, again, focus exclusively on trying to close that protection gap.
John, this has been fascinating and so insightful, and it's always such a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, Lori.
That was John Huff, CEO of the Association of Bermuda Insurers and Reinsurers. For AM Best Audio, I'm Lori Chortis.
Looking to get the full attention of the insurance industry? We have the platforms that will do just that. Whether it be AM Best TV, AM Best Audio, Best Review Magazine, or Best Day. Find out more by calling AM Best Advertising Sales at 908-439-2200, extension 5399, and have a great day.